We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
Nosotros crecemos cuando damos.
We grow when we give.
Давайте, и дастся вам.
与えるとき成長する。
We grow when we give.
Welcome to R.O.G, Return on Generosity. I'm your host, Shannon Cassidy. This podcast celebrates generosity at work, not financial giving valuable time, mutual respect, alternative perspectives, and genuine collaboration. Our special guest today is Yvette Kanouff. She is an Emmy Award-winning technology pioneer and partner at JC2 Ventures, a venture firm founded by Cisco Chairman Emeritus John Chambers. Yvette headed the service provider business at Cisco Systems. The revenue for that business that was led by Yvette was $13 billion. She has held CTO and president roles at various companies and is focused on leading technology, innovation, and invention. Yvette has received several Emmys, including a Lifetime Achievement Emmy in television engineering and technology. She's earned numerous industry awards like Cable Hall of Fame inductee 2024, woohoo! NCTA, Vanguard, Wonder Woman, Broadcast and Cable 11 Most Influential Women, Cable World 50 Most Influential Women, IEEE Engineer of the Year, CableFax Top 100 Executives, it goes on. She holds several patents and is on various company and industry boards. So major congrats to her. Can't wait to hear more about all of this. But what I appreciate most about you, Yvette, and it's a very long list of things like authenticity, approachability, intelligence, humor, humility, a million things, is your inclusivity. You've always been inclusive, warm, and welcoming. I believe that you only need one person, and for many opportunities and situations, you have been my one person. So thank you for that. Welcome to R.O.G, Yvette.
Shannon, it is so great to see you, and right back at you. You're very much the same in terms of just always caring about other people. So I'm very excited to spend time with you and chat about some of our favorite topics that I know we share.
Yes. Thank you for making time and sharing your wisdom. I think it would be great to hear a little bit about your background. Tell us where you're from and a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I grew up in Germany, and I remember always goofing off in school until my math teacher made me solve this complicated problem, and it made me fall in love with mathematics. And I ended up following that field, studied math, undergraduate, graduate, worked in early AI, came to the television industry and innovated a bunch of really exciting things. And most important, met all these fabulous people that we're friends for life, and hopefully continuing that on by helping more people come to our industry and succeed.
Oh, that's incredible. So you grew up in Germany, and what are some of the steps that took you to where you are now, which is in Pennsylvania, U.S.?
Yes. So my father was in the military, moved to America, and he was in the American military, was stationed in Germany. Then we got stationed to America. So I went to American college after having been in German school and married an American. And so my career's been based here. I worked in the Department of Defense, and then after I went to cable, I've just had various roles, CTO, president of companies, all focused on things looking forward. You know, Shannon, this is my passion, right? Is change the way it is and do something new. So that's been fun. And I started in video on demand, and boy, everything we're doing, video on demand, CDN, streaming, all of those technologies, there was nothing. We had to work with the studios to figure out from how to get metadata to how to even just get something off of a tape onto digital format. Really, really fun stuff.
That's incredible. Like, to think that the world's first video on demand is something that you had to do with, right? And the creation of the DVD and the first app store and cloud and encryption and cybersecurity. I mean, there's like the amount of things that you've been involved in. And I'm just wondering, what do you think is some like a characteristic or a way in which you see the world that enables you to imagine something that hasn't existed ever before?
Yeah, I think it's a personality thing to me, because there are people, and I admire it, that are operationally amazing, right? They can figure out how to just, if you do, this much capacity today, I can get more capacity tomorrow. And that's just a skill. And it's a skill that's not mine, right? My skill is to say, we're doing something this way, and here are problems, and let's innovate an entirely different product for tomorrow. So it just depends. Everybody's good at something, and I love that. But I always look at every day. I look at everything that way, saying, what else could there be? And let's play with it, right? I mean, I think about like the DVD you mentioned. I was just back and forth so much before we even got close to iteration and teams working together to innovate. It's just fun. I love it.
And so some of the questions that you think about, what else could there be? That's one question. What are other questions that just run through your mind on any given day?
Well, I think that right now we have come so far with AI. I'm a mathematician, so I worked on pattern recognition many, many years ago. And I had to code everything myself. I had to build my own algorithms. I had to code them. I had to test them. I had to train everything very manually. Now you can do this stuff with no code. So probably top of mind for me is how are we using AI and all these easy to use tools more and more and more and more every day? Of course, ethically and with all of the right regulatory following, the trends that are happening on the regulatory front, trust. But given all of that, the innovation there is endless, seemingly endless at this point as to what we can do to make things better. So it's just a fabulous time to innovate.
And how do you see AI as making things better? Because as we know, some people are really afraid of what it's going to do, which is true for a lot of the innovations that you've already referred to, right? When those things came on the scene, you think, well, what's going to happen to vinyl, right? With DVDs. So how do you see AI being advantageous and enabling us to do more in the world?
Well, you can't hide from what technology evolution is there. So I think sticking our head in the sand is probably not the best idea. I think we have to, because, if you look at it in a simple bad guys and good guys, right? Your hackers and people trying to do bad things, they're not going to ignore it. So we have to be ready and look at what we can do. If you can, so much happening in healthcare, so much happening in biotech, so much in helping with biology, cyber and looking at patterns in cyber attacks that we never could see manually, right? You think of mathematics, it finds patterns and it looks at things and it finds patterns that you're not trained in, right? This is the whole unsupervised learning. So the beauty for me is go at it and find something that's different, find something that's an anomaly, and then we can evaluate it. So there's just, I struggle to figure out how to say these are the things we can do because there's just so much.
Yeah, so there's endless possibility and for us to be curious. That's what I'm hearing you say. You're encouraging us to be curious and wonder, how could this be different? What's a problem that we never considered a solution for, but this might be a way for us to find a solve?
Yeah. Shannon, one of the things that you and I share and we talk about always when we see each other is how do we help others, especially those that don't have a good opportunity, but they don't have life on a silver platter. So how do we make silver platters for people? And I think that I consider myself in that. I had, put myself through college and I didn't have any free rides, right? So I think that where I was lucky is that there was so much innovation that was accepted and needed in my career, right? When I created video on demand as opposed to video on schedule, everybody thought that was great. We changed it to streaming. Everybody thought that was great. We created the DVD. Well, people didn't, that was something wonderful. And on and on. And I think that opportunity is so much there today with this AI topic. There's so much to innovate. It gives people an equality, right? Because if you can innovate and create great things, you can have a wonderful career journey. So I do think there's also that. It's not just the excitement of innovation, it's the excitement of opportunity and equalization, which, I know you and I love.
Yes. Oh, I love to hear you saying that, like how it can be a leveler And also another great question is like, how do we make silver platters, or how do we help people? How can we use what is being created to advance opportunities in an equitable way? And this is one of those opportunities. So I appreciate your positivity in that. And, at your organization, JC2
Ventures.
JC2 Ventures, you write a blog, and it's my 2 cents, which I love, because I often think that, when we're sharing our advice, it might feel to some like 2 cents. Yours is extraordinarily more valuable than that, but you call it that. I'm curious, just why did you call it that?
I think, like you said, everybody has their opinion, and I just, and some people, not everybody agrees, but it's funny. Like one of them that I wrote about the pendulum swinging between centralized and decentralized, and the things that we see in data centers. There's a cloud. No, there's the edge. It's decentralized again, and it's interesting to watch what happens with technology. And when you watch the past, you can also think about, therefore, what do I think is going to happen next, which is how I love it, right? That's what I spend every day with. So, and when you talk about trends and what could be, not everybody agrees. So it's just my 2 cents.
Humility, like I said, your classic humility. And so what are some of the ways that you identify trends? Like you said, it's pattern recognition, and there's, pendulums and all of this. Like, are there ways and like something that you pay attention to? Is it like signals or frequency of something?
I think that for me, some of that is important. I do care about, and pattern recognition is something we all do, right? So naturally. But I would say mostly it's identifying something that's a problem. Every day you go through your day and there's something that's an issue for you. That issue might be traffic, right? Every day I drive to work and it's ridiculous and I'm so upset because I have traffic. That's why people are building flying cars, right? That's not my area of expertise, but as an example, it doesn't matter what it is. There's something that could be better, right? And so if you think about television, or you think about let's say, let's not make it television, let's think about entertainment, right? Entertainment used to be television. It used to be radio before that. And television was, you have to wait until Thursday night at 8 o'clock to watch your favorite show. And that was frustrating and I had something else to do Thursday. Now I have to wait for a rerun, which is going to happen in 2 years. So we solved that problem, and we solved it by watching anything, anytime. And then the internet gave us the opportunity to put that on other devices, not just a television. And we created broadband. And so to me, look for something where you're stuck and look at that in an area where I might have expertise. And I do that every day. We should all do it every day. So fun.
Yes. Yeah. And another thing that you do really well is networking. And I mean, strategic networking. You have a very strong network. You've invested in these relationships over the years. And I've just seen you work so beautifully with other people. I mean, what could you say about networking and relationship building?
I think that there are a lot of classes and courses and books written on networking, and I'm sure they're all really super. I've never read any of them. The point is that it shouldn't be something that is a formula I give you here, Shannon. It should be something that comes from your heart, And I think the reason my network's so strong is I have so many great friends, and this industry is I consider you one of them, Shannon. You're so lovely, and you're just always so thoughtful. And so when you meet people, you invest in them, and you're there for them, and they're there for me. During my difficult times, my friends in this industry, my work friends, have been my real, true friends. And that's the way I look at it. So I went into venture, as deeply technical. I ran a very large business and went up the executive chain, right? And in all of that, I created these lifetime friendships. So networking sounds so cold to me. I consider it lifetime friendships. And so then when I decided to take my love of innovation and work with startups, I now get to talk to all of my friends and say, let's figure out how to put startups into innovating for your company and help the startups and help everybody, right? And it's so fun. So
brilliant answer. No, because what you're saying is like reframe it or rename it. because networking sounds so, I don't know, like you said, cold, or like there's a transaction, or like there's a if this, then that. But what you're saying is building friendships like organic. So I think that is really the answer is make genuine connections with people and care about them and think about how you can help them. I mean, that's exactly what I do.
I think that's right. And I think that if we say networking, it sounds like you have an expected outcome, right? Like I will network with you and then you will give me something, right? And that's the part that I don't like. I prefer to give than to expect to get something. And then you get so much more.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's really the essence of this podcast, which is that we're not giving so that we can get anything in return. But the fact is we get so much joy and fulfillment and like that sense of purpose when we know that we are making a contribution in some meaningful way. And I think the meaningful is in the eye of the beholder. You know, it's to the person to whom we've offered support. So I think it's just echoing what we're talking about here. So when you think about return on generosity, like what comes to your mind? What are some of the associations that you make?
Well, Shannon, we've known each other for a long time now. And to me, it's deeply in who I am. So it's not a purposeful thought. I need to be generous now. It's a natural. So when I approach people, meet new people, meet current people I know, my first thought is, oh, it's great to see you. How can I help you? And what can I do for you? And I will tell you that people I don't know, they're many, many times suspicious of it, right? They say, what do you mean? You want to help me, right? What do you want? What do you need? And so that's kind of funny to me, but they get used to it when you realize, that you really, really want to help people. Look, I'm so lucky. I have so many great things, great friends, great ability to help people. And there's nothing better than somebody at the beginning of their career, a little bit lost, not knowing how to get to that next level. And I can help them. And then they work harder and it's great and it helps the company. So there are such wonderful benefits from it, but everybody wins, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm so excited. I have this opportunity. And it changes a culture. It makes it a culture fun to be at a company because everybody sees the benefit of their hard work. When people aren't seen, they're not satisfied the same as being seen. So let's help people be seen. Let's help people succeed. Let's help people. And I don't need that in my career right now. It's not important to me. It was very important to me years ago. I wanted to be seen, right? But so I think that to me, generosity means just naturally helping people. I will say, Shannon, I've had difficult times in my life, right? My husband passed away. It was a terrible time for me. And when really, really sad things happened to me, all that generosity came right back at me. Everybody came to me and said, how can I help you? And for the first time, I thought, I need that help. And thank you for it, right? So when you give and you need it back, it's amazing how everyone will be there for you. It sounds, again, so scripted, but it's not. It really is. It's such a beautiful thing. So to me, generosity, what do you have to give? Everybody has something to give, right? Even the person that just graduated from college and doesn't have work experience can give something to maybe a teenage or that's trying to get into college. Here's what worked for me to get into college. Everybody has something to give. And we should just, if we go giving first, I feel I've gotten so much more. I've gotten so many friendships and deep, real friendships with a giving first attitude in life.
Completely agree. And you do. And thank you for sharing that with your experience and what you've been through and how, and again, it was not because you weren't giving so that you could get, but the fact is that you built these genuine relationships and they were built on an authentic connection and you were willing to share what was going on in your life and invited people in. So I just think even that's generous, like us receiving the support that other people want to give us wholeheartedly is a generous thing too, because sometimes we're just not good at asking for help. I don't know about you. I'm terrible at that.
I am terrible at it too. And that's why I think when things are genuine and you go at it with this generosity first, to your point, the return on generosity comes naturally. You don't have to ask. People they care deeply about you because they see that you care. So I think return on generosity comes by just having a generosity first attitude. It's not something you can buy. It's not something you can have an expectation of how to quantify. What am I going to get back out of this? It's quite amazing. It just happens.
And what gets in the way? I mean, if you're thinking about our listeners and people who are like, I get that and I want to live that way. I mean, just in our own lives. I mean, I know like sometimes I get in my own way because I'm thinking about myself, right? I'm thinking about what I need or what's on my mind or my to-do list. And I'm not being as gracious to the person online next to me at the store, as an example. Just like, what do you think gets in the way of us living that way?
A lot of things get in the way. If you are going through, people go through divorces, I gave an example of my own situation with loss. And there are stresses in life. You can't just say, I'm going to ignore the stress and I'm just going to be a generous person. You can't, you have to be who you are. And I think that life takes you through hard times and good times. But if you, and so sometimes you just have to focus on yourself. I wouldn't say change anything about what you're going through. But when you can, it's just an amazing way to live is the only point that I make, is when you go to work and it's a good day, do you go to work with an attitude of how can I make sure that I get that raise? How can I make sure that I get that promotion? The me first is it's much more satisfying to say, how can I go in and make it a great day for all of my colleagues? And I have to tell you, I think in my own career, I've had more success talking about what my team did, what others did, how they succeeded, and that helped me more than talking about me. Even when you opened and said, "Tell me about things you've done," right? It's not my nature, you know me. It's not my nature to say, "Let me tell you what I've done," because it's hard. That's difficult for me. But I like talking about how fun it was and the people I worked with. And I think that as you go, especially through management, you have to expose your team, you have to expose people and give them opportunities. You can't go at it talking about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So those are some of the ways that we can be more generous or more thoughtful and intentional about how we're, additive and amplifying people's voices. So giving people that exposure to senior leadership or to present their ideas, or even like what you're saying, talk about the work that other people did that contributed to this outcome that's getting praise and recognition. What else? Like, what are other ways that you see it at work? Because I do want to talk about mentoring in a minute, but just what, like day to day, you're leading a team, you're an executive. Like, what are some of the demonstrations of what we're calling generous leadership? You can call it a lot of things, like empathetic leadership or servant leadership, but
Well, I'll give you one particular example that stands out to me, and I do use this one a lot in mentorship. But many times, people I mentor say, I'm not seen. I want that president to see me. I want to get that promotion. How can I get them to know what I'm doing? How can I get them to see what I'm doing? And I love going through a 360 review, and I don't do a big detailed one, just kind of, ask people what they think about you and what are the three things that you would think characterize you and to get that promotion, right? And I think that many people say, well, I'm liked and I'm smart, and whatever. Everybody has their things that come out of a 360. You can't make it up, right? And I think, well, for me, as I think about promoting someone, and I think it's pretty consistent, promoting someone means that you get results and you have followership. And then the third one might be culture, like you're nice or you're whatever aligns with your company values. But the two that are always consistent is you have results and you have followership. It's not that you're smart. If you're not smart, but you get everybody else to get results, you might get the promotion. So are we focused in the wrong place, right? And so therefore, coming back to full circle to what started this in the generosity front, if you want to be a good manager or show that you can be a manager, you never want to go to the president and talk about yourself. You want to go to the president and you want to talk about the team and what the team did and how the team, and specifically Joe, Jim, Mary, Joanne, right? Like here are the people that did it. And do you know how great they are? Because It shows the fact that you can create results and you can create followership. And I think guaranteed, always, almost always, it never helps to talk about yourself, talk about the others. I can't say it. We keep coming back to the same thing because it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about when people say, well, I was told that I need to self-advocate and I need to, speak up for myself and all of that. And how would you respond to that objection?
I don't understand it. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where you have to self-advocate. What I do see is that there are situations where people don't speak up in meetings. And I think that is a mistake. I think you have to have a voice. If you don't have a voice, people assume you don't have one, and you won't be at the table. So you have to be at the table. You have to have a voice, but that voice is about if you're talking about strategy or a technical solution, have your input on the strategy, have your input on the technical solution. If you're giving an update and you don't have a team, then give your update. But if you have a team, give the team the credit. The team did the work, So I usually think that I interpret it different, which is, are you saying that you're not participating? Please participate. Everybody should participate, have a voice, but team first. You can't get me off that.
It's a mindset. I think it's a mindset, right? And I really think, that's the reason why teams are such a popular construct, is because it's the way to get work done. It's a way to be inclusive as an organization. You know that you can't do it all yourself, and you're surrounding yourself with smart individuals who have hopefully the same objective that you can all work together to get to. And I love that whole bit about, thinking about, are you getting results and do you have followership? Are you the kind of leader that people want to work with? Because some people are tolerated. They're not included or invited. They're just tolerated. So, check yourself on that.
I have to just say one thing on that, because you just jogged my memory about something. I remember one time somebody coming up to me saying, you have to give me this title. I need a vice president, I think it was. I need a vice president title because everyone will respect me. They don't respect me without the title. And I thought, we have a long way to go on this particular topic, because respect never comes from a title. Exactly what you just said. You can not have a title. You can not have you can be in a matrixed organization, not have a single employee, and you can create wonderful followership, because followership comes from respect and other things than what your title is. Strongly feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always find that curious too, when the title is the objective and you're like, well, what's behind that? What is the belief that you have that this title will enable you to do what? And, in some cases, it's that they're not invited to certain meetings that they want to have access to, and, that. But I think it's sometimes it's like misrepresenting what's the real need here. And for you to say, like, let's start at some of these more basic things around how are you as a leader? So you've been a mentor for many, many years, even long before I met you. And you've consistently supported women in technology and individuals in all over the place, no doubt. But I get to see, the women in technology that we partner with. And you have just very consistently enabled these individuals to really grow. You push them to think bigger. Curious to hear, first, what are your thoughts on mentoring? And then would love to hear some of the challenging situations that you've been a part of and how did you help people navigate, similar to the example you just gave us. So just let's start with your thoughts on mentoring.
Well, I'm a big fan. I look at it as there are three things that we all need: coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. And a coach talks to you, a mentor talks with you, and a sponsor talks about you. Lucky people have those things naturally, but most of us don't. And so there have been so many times I needed a coach for someone to say, oh my God, Yvette, don't do that. Never do that again, right? I saw you do that in the meeting. Don't do it, right? And just talk to me and tell me what to do and not do. We're not all experts at something. And mentorship, this having conversations and teaching and learning is so special. And I think that when you're in need of just getting that exposure, because I believe so strongly that it's difficult to talk about yourself and it's not natural. It's nice to have other people talk about you, and give you an opportunity. So I would say that I've always believed that I should do all three of those, and I should do them for the underrepresented. So I was the sponsor of Conexión, Cisco's Latino network. I do Women in Tech with you, Shannon. It doesn't matter as much what, as there's always somebody that doesn't have those three things. And how can we create those three things for people that don't have them naturally? First generation college students getting a job, right? Don't know the steps. How can we help them? So so along those lines, they go into those three categories. Many times the difficult situations are people just don't know how. They think, I just can't get that first promotion, that manager, that first lead manager job. Sometimes it's, how do I deal with difficult people? I have a really difficult boss, and they have their own issues, and they don't want me to succeed because they're focused on themselves, And so I've seen many situations, and I think that it's knowing which one of the three to take. Sometimes I just have to say, go do this and don't do that, and sometimes it's really working through issues, and sometimes I've had some absolutely fabulous people that I've had to talk about. And there's some very successful people in our industry that I'm so proud that they're very successful, but they just weren't known. And so sometimes it's just opening doors and making introductions and talking about them. So it's not that one is more complex. It's knowing how to help in those three facets. Do you agree? What do you think? I mean,
I totally agree. Yeah, and I think you're right. Everybody needs all three, and I don't think you have to have even more than one representative in your life who can offer you, and it could be the same person who changes hats given the situation. But I think that the coach is that connection, and that, like, what's the goal and how do we help you get there? So it's like your strategic partner. And then the mentor with that listening and that really seeking to understand, and then having the experience to say, I've been in a situation like that, and here's what I did well, or here's the mistake I made, so don't make that same mistake. And then the sponsor, I think you have to earn. Very often in our programs, I say to people, don't assume that your mentor is going to be your sponsor. Be sponsorable. Be the kind of person and show up in a way that they would want to brag about you. So I really think that's on the individual to be someone that they would want to be, the fly your flag, so to speak.
I love that. I fully agree with you very much.
So one of the things that you do well, this is a good segue to that, is that you disagree with people really well.
I disagree.
So on that point, we're on the same page. But is that something you learned? Is that like through just a lifetime of like paying attention to how to interact with people? Is that just because you want to be honest? I don't know how you do it, but you do it really well.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Shannon. I've not actually ever been told that, so this is a revelation for you to say this. But I will tell you, I really struggled when I was early in my career with trying to make people happy, and so I thought, especially people in higher level positions. And some people call it passive aggressive. Some people call it two-faced. There's all kinds of words for trying to, and I think generally people try to be a good person, but they're trying to please. And so when you try to please, you just say what people want to hear. And I'm a terrible liar, and I can't ever, it never worked out for me. So me trying to play these games created a lot of issues for me personally. And so I learned very early on that the best thing I can do, and it's been a great thing for me, is just to tell the truth. And sometimes, I try to be nice about it, but I try to always just tell the truth. And so, so when you have something where it's not going to succeed, and you can figure out a nice way, again, don't be mean. Nobody wants a mean person, but just say it, and just say, I'm struggling to understand this. So can you explain to me, what if this happens? What if that happens? Or sometimes you can just say, what if the outcome is this? What would we do? And so there are many ways to be nice about saying, I think you're wrong. You don't say, I think you're wrong. You say, let's walk through it, because I'm seeing a lot of potential headwinds with that solution. So do you mind spending a couple minutes walking through those headwinds? And I think that people end up appreciating it if you brainstorm some of the potential outcomes. And I have to tell you, most of the time, if you have a really good, honest conversation, you end up on the same page. And I might have been wrong, and I'm wrong many, many times. So, sometimes people just walk through scenarios so that I can agree with them. So, I wouldn't say it's disagreeing, or it never has to be arguing, but it's good to go at hard topics.
Yeah, and I think you do. Like, what I'm hearing from that too is that you trust yourself. Like, this doesn't feel right, or I'm not seeing what you're seeing. So let me learn more. Give me a little context. Tell me more about how you're seeing that. And then here are some of the concerns or the possibilities that just occurred to me. How would we handle it if that happened? So that is collaborative, and it's helpful because that's one of the things that I just personally have experienced with you, is that it expands my thinking. Like, you help me to think of things that I didn't consider. And you do it in a way that's very collaborative. And, I think of that, seek first to understand before being understood. I think you model that really well.
Oh, it's you say that so nicely, but it might be as simple as I'm wrong. So sometimes you just have to, if you go at it thinking, maybe I'm wrong, but can you help explain it to me? Because I'm seeing all these other things, and I'm seeing a fiasco, and you're seeing this fabulous outcome. One of us is wrong. Can we go through it? Probably me.
And it could be a yes and, right? We're both seeing something that's relevant and important. Yeah. And how can we put those together? So I think it's a collaborative approach, which I so appreciate. So what encouragement do you have, in addition to what you've already said, to our listeners who are really seeking to be maybe even more innovative? You've given us a couple nuggets here, which I'll recap. More inclusive, more generous. What's some just advice you have?
The biggest piece of advice that I have had for myself that I would give is to be true to whoever you are. I think that there are all these branding exercises. There are such cool things you can do in a good mentorship program where the outcome, they have these formal names like networking. You said, I don't like the name, but it has a value, right? Teach people to create deep friendships, right? Is what I would call it. And branding, but branding to me is knowing who you are and knowing who you're trying to be and really taking a deep look. And that's a good one to do in a mentoring session. But if you know that you're kind, probably don't go for the ruthless job, right? Because it doesn't match who you really are. And I think being true to yourself. So I can be very, I can be really tough. I can be very, very tough, but I'm a giving, a kind person by nature. And sometimes that's hard, right? Because people will take advantage of the fact that I'm giving and kind. So I'm aware of the fact that people can try to take from that, and I'm aware that I have to have results. And so if you know who you are and are true to that, you can still achieve the same results. Just don't try to copy somebody else's way of doing it. Do it your own way, and still you have to be tough. You have to get results. It doesn't mean that you can be a pushover, but you can do it in your own style. And I think that's the generosity and your return on generosity comes, you have to do it genuine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's so important. And you're saying, like, know who you are and know when you need to, flex, or, when do you need to be tougher? When do you maybe need to be kinder or softer given the situation, right? If somebody's going through a tough time, or if they're beating themselves up so bad that keep it in perspective.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, one of the tough things to do is to lay people off, right? You have cuts and people didn't do anything wrong. They're good people, right? And so, you should never say something like, the company made this decision, it's not me, right? No, I represent the company, it's me, right? I'm making this decision. So being true to yourself, right? but you can still say it with kindness, right? You can still say the words and say, this has been an amazing 2 years that we've worked together, and I'm happy to help you in any way, right? There's still ways you can let your personality come up without trying to blame somebody else or be somebody you're not. So that's art. I spend a lot of time in mentoring sessions on how to enable that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Having tough conversations is a difficult thing to learn, right?
It's a very difficult thing to learn. Is that one of the harder things that you've had to work with someone through in a mentoring partnership?
I think it's true in general. I have a hard time with that, and with trying to help people with tricks to do that in the right way. But it ends up making you a much better person if you can understand how to have difficult conversations in an honest way. It's much easier to have a team of people and only tell them good news and never bad news. And then people will be upset if they say, you never told me that this was my weakness. Why did you never tell me? And then you can't say, well, it was hard for me. I wanted to be nice. That's not being a good manager. Honesty, and being genuine to yourself is amazing if you get it right.
So true. So you've shared so much with us, Yvette. I'm going to attempt to recap some of this and then get any additional thoughts. You talked to us about, because what we want to do in this segment here is recap what we've heard so we can think about how can we apply some of this to our own work and lives. So you talked about embracing what is and don't put your head in the sand. Find something that is different, find a way to do it differently or an invention. Think about, how do we help each other? How can I help people? How can I create silver platters? You talked about to identify what is the problem. Like, what is the problem I'm experiencing? What is the ick thing or the annoying thing that I'm dealing with today? And how might I create a solution for that? Build deep friendships, and that those connections come straight from the heart. That how can I help question for us to be asking consistently, enable others to be seen and to succeed. How can I be a catalyst? How can I amplify what someone's doing? Give first, talk about each other. Talked about speaking up and having a voice, and finding a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. Then you close with be true to whoever you are. Such great words of wisdom.
Wow, you're so good at summarizing, Shannon. I'm so impressed.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing such thoughtful wisdom with us for us to consider how we can be even more generous and thoughtful as we move forward. I so appreciate you as a friend and as a colleague and somebody who I can always rely on. Thank you for being who you are.
Likewise, and I love what you're doing for people. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to R.O.G, Return on Generosity podcast. Please help us grow by subscribing and reviewing us on your favorite podcast player. And for more information, visit bridgebetween.com. We grow when we give.
우리는 나누면서 성숙합니다.
We grow when we give.
On rayonne quand on donne.
We grow when we give.